I know we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you get a chance, give us some support out there and love by giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, or follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, it is sincerely appreciated. Well, 300 episodes in the books right now. It's just awesome to be here once again for episode number 300, part of our 300 episode extravaganza per se. But I wanted to go ahead and bring on a special guest for this episode because it's 300. It's a nice big number. And who better to start off episode 300 than the man who started it all? He is a good man indeed. You got to catch what he's doing on Instagram at Healthy Movement Blueprint, and on Instagram. On Instagram, it is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out there on your social media. It is Boomer Perrault. And Boomer, great to have you here. A long time no here, but you're the man that started it all in episode 1. I wish we were talking under better circumstances now that it's the off season, but I am so glad and so happy to have you here nonetheless.
Absolutely, man. And I got to say, I give you props for wearing that hat today under the circumstances. A lot of people are probably putting their Laker stuff in the closet for a few weeks. But, yeah, like you said, it would be nice if it was under different circumstances. But you can't win every year. So this is bound to happen more often than not.
No, I always proudly wear my purple and gold anywhere and anytime I can. I know I'll probably get flack about it, and especially hearing LeBron this, LeBron that over the next few months. But you know what? I'm going to smile because I've got memories of a great 17th World Championship not too long ago. And I know that their team that they're probably shouting at me at that they really like or really support hasn't won anything anytime recently, most likely. So I'm very supportive of my Lakers team, win or lose, and I'm very happy that they were able to go ahead and win one with LeBron in the bubble and AD when they were healthy. And I think that's a part of the issue there is that they were not healthy and coming back too soon after the end of the season. And you could point to a lot of things on what ifs and whatnots, but of course it didn't end up, coming into fruition for us this season. But I will say over the course of the 300 episodes, since I last spoke to you, 299 actually, but since the last time I got a chance to speak to you, there's been some highs and lows. And I want to ask you those highs and lows for you since we last spoke. I know we talk about, like I said, the championship that they won, which was obviously a real high for you. And Kobe passing away was obviously a real low. But I want to hear your thoughts on over the course of the past year plus since we talked, your thoughts on being a Lakers fan and during that time.
Yeah, well, look, as you said, of course, we won the title last year, or really 6-7 months ago, or
exactly,
whatever, not even a full year. So as frustrating as it is right now, you got to look at that. And it's funny how a lot of the LeBron haters or analysts and people that weren't in the league or haven't been in the league, we're talking about how that's a tainted title. It's not as significant, but all the players that were in the bubble were talking about how hard it was to play in the bubble. So you can make a case that that's as special of a title as there's ever been.
Yeah.
So you look at that and, even though this season didn't work out, this past off season, it at least appeared that they were making the right move. So just the off season in general was exciting. The first half before AD's first Achilles injury was a lot of fun to watch. And as a Lakers fan, pretty much since then, it's all been downhill. But there's no doubt about it. Up until 4 months ago, there was nothing to be upset about if you're a Lakers fan. So there's no doubt that there are a lot of positives to look at in this past year and a half.
Absolutely, and it's a little bit of negatives. Of course, the disappointing factors that we had to go through over the course of the past year and a half. the unfortunate and tragic death of Kobe Bryant. I know that's something that still weighs heavily on the minds of Lakers fans. I haven't had a chance to speak to you yet on this, and I know that day is probably etched in your mind when you first heard the news of Kobe's passing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how it's affected you since.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely one of those things where, of course, it hits you a little harder if you were a big Kobe fan or Lakers fan. But I think for most people, it's going to be one of those instances where you remember exactly where you were and exactly what you were doing at the time. And I was out to lunch with my mom. I could tell you
I agree.
The restaurant I was at. I could tell you the exact table we were sitting at. And my cousin texted me and said Kobe died. And I don't know anyone else named Kobe. So, but still my first reaction was Kobe who? Because you just didn't believe that a guy like that could die, which sounds silly, but, he says Kobe Bryant, helicopter crash, and then you first think, oh, it's not true. It's not true. Probably one of those fake reports. And then just, over time, the course of the next few hours, you realize once all the rumors settled of who was on the helicopter, you realize it was true. And there's no doubt that first few days were rough. It's like a lot of people that were on television said, I definitely shed a few tears, and then you realize while you're doing it, it's like, man, it's crazy. I never even met this guy, and I'm still crying. It just shows the impact that he has had on so many lives, and it was definitely an intense week or so, but I definitely tried to use that as motivation to help me work harder in life, as I think most people did. Just because that's what most people knew him as, is just not only a competitor, but just someone who was as hard of a worker as you'll ever find. So, just like the season, you always look to find a positive, and the positive was it definitely motivated me, and I still try to use that as motivation to this day to work harder, and especially on those days or those moments where you don't feel like working harder. You just think about him and what he did with his life, and it makes you want to go a little harder.
I want to ask you this, obviously coming off that tragedy, and I know that summer with the time off because of the coronavirus and the uncertainty that we all had as far as seeing if this last season would ever finish and just basically culminate in some type of finality. And they did announce the bubble. Of course, everybody was very unsure about how it was going to go. What were your thoughts about the bubble itself and the expectations on whether or not it would or would not succeed?
Initially, of course, I was like, this virus spreads so easily and quickly. I don't know how they'll be able to keep it from spreading. All it takes is one person to get it, and then next thing you know, half the league could have it.
Yeah.
My initial thoughts were that it was going to be a tainted title, because I figured it was bound to happen where one team was missing a key guy because of COVID. They missed the whole series, but obviously that wasn't the case. And after that first, I think, week and a half or something, 2 weeks of just playing those quote unquote regular season games, I don't think anyone ended up getting the virus. So it went great. As far as what I thought about the games themselves, I didn't really have an opinion on it. I know some people actually liked it more with no crowd. Some people thought it was terrible and didn't want to see it. If anything, I would have liked them to not have the fake crowd noise in there. I think it would be cool to be able to hear the players. I understand why they didn't do that because, of course, in during the game, you hear probably more curse words than not. So I understand why they didn't do that. But I didn't really have much of an opinion about the games themselves, of whether I liked it or not. It's at the end of the day, it's still basketball.
Absolutely. It is just basketball indeed. Once again, I'm speaking to the first original guest I've ever had on the show, and that is Boomer Perrault. Please go ahead and support him today on Instagram at Healthy Movement Blueprint. Please, if you can, support him there on Instagram. Boomer, as we went along in the bubble, first off, the Lakers got off to a horrible start of the bubble. They looked absolutely terrible for that end of the I guess, the 8-game stretch, as it were, leading into the playoffs. And we were very unsure here on the show about the future, what the Lakers would look like at that point in time. Heading into the playoffs, were you confident that the Lakers were going to pull it off, or let us know? I mean, because you were on the East Coast, and this is one of the things I took most from our conversation originally so long ago, was that you on the East Coast, you almost equated it to like you being on an island unto yourself as far as your Lakers fandom is concerned. But leading into that bubble playoff scenario, were you concerned about where the Lakers were at that point in time?
I don't think there's any question that you had to be a little bit concerned. I can't remember exactly, but I do believe in one of those last 2 games, in those playing games, they played the Clippers, I want to say, or they played, or them with
they played the Kings, I know, in their last game, and looked absolutely awful.
Might have been the Nuggets then. And they ended up having a tight game, but they came through at the end, which gave you a little bit of hope. But again, they weren't playing well once they got to the bubble. You didn't know if LeBron specifically wanted to be there or not. They were going against a team that everyone was calling the greatest 8th seed of all time in the Portland Trailblazers. So there's no doubt that you had to be concerned. And then, of course, they lose game 1. But after they picked up that game 2 victory and then game 3, then all of a sudden that worry started to go away. And not to jump too far ahead, but you kind of hope that would be the same situation this year, as they definitely came into the regular season not playing their best basketball over those last few weeks of the season.
And boy, did we start to think that things were going to turn around after game 3 of this year's playoffs, where the Lakers were starting to fool around and starting to have some fun out there and starting to have that camaraderie, and a lot of it just for that one brief moment in that game where we saw the things that we had experienced in the bubble, and we were starting to see the team that we saw in the bubble in that game, and things looked so bright from there. And of course, it all went wrong from there. But culminating in going back to the bubble real quick, last question I want to touch on is that ultimately we did know what happened with the Lakers, and they did ultimately beat the Miami Heat in 6 games. For someone who, again, is, for your Lakers fandom, you are amongst the very few out on the East Coast that support the Lakers so wholeheartedly. How was it for you experiencing that in such a format when the Lakers won that world championship?
Well, it was cool, but obviously I have some basketball NBA fans that are friends, but I don't have a lot of Lakers friends. So you get excited, but there's not necessarily someone to, people to celebrate with that you're with. But at the end of the day, it's basketball, it's NBA, so I don't need to celebrate. I get happy, and then I move on. So
no screaming in the backyard or anything.
No screaming in the backyard for me. Maybe when I was in high school, but I'm too old for that now.
Fair enough.
No, it was cool though, no doubt about it. And of course, even the friends I have that are NBA fans, it's funny how much of a shift there's been, and really, I think you can attribute it to Golden State's dynasty. But everyone seemed to root against LeBron pre-Golden State dynasty, but then since then, it seems like everyone's been rooting for him. So even though I don't have a lot of friends that are Lakers fans, I had a lot of people I knew that were still rooting for him to win.
And going into that, they did come into this season, but the story, the injuries, Solomon Hill rolling up on LeBron James's ankle, which was, I think, a very climactic point for the team. At that point, we were still in a very competitive state. AD, at the time he got hurt, we were just out of first place in the Western Conference, and we're still very high up there, and we're looking to go ahead and rebound and start playing better as a team when that happened. So we saw what happened when the injuries and how well they affected, or how much they affected, the overall status of that. And that's something that the Lakers ultimately couldn't overcome.
Yeah. I loved all the moves that they made this offseason. I thought that there was no doubt, if you look at that roster, and of course you add Andre Drummond into there midway through, but it was not only a more talented roster than last year, but as deep as a roster talent-wise as you'll find almost any year. My one question was, it's more talented. Is it going to be a better team, though? Last year, they were talented, but they were just such a good team, not only with the chemistry, but just everybody seemed to know their role and fit their role, and we had all the roles covered. This year, it seemed it was just a roster put together of the most talent as possible. Still should be good enough to win a title, but like you said, then AD goes down, and then LeBron goes down, and now all of a sudden, not that you will ever have people to pick up the roles of a LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but I think you really started to see that this team was just based off of talent and not as much of a team put together to play together. And, once they went down, we just struggled to score so much. The threes that were going down seemed like almost every time they went up in the first month of the season. Now we're rarely going down. Obviously, we never got that going to the playoffs. And it's just the offense, as soon as LeBron went down, even when he came back, just the offense never seemed to look good. It just looked ugly up until last night.
Agreed. Very much agreed. So I'm going to put you in Rob Pelinka's chair. Okay. I'm going to have you sit down and you're going to meet with everybody and what to target for the off season. So if I put you in Rob Pelinka's shoes and his paycheck as well. So, we can't do anything without his paycheck. But if I put you in Rob Pelinka's shoes, before we end on out, I want to ask you this. Where would you go with the Lakers? What direction? Because you have still a very small window for LeBron. Sure, you have him contracted for another 3 years, plus AD contracted for another 3 years. But what changes do you think the Lakers need to make besides obviously the fact that the Lakers with AD and LeBron, they need to get healthy. That's first and foremost, obviously. But what direction do you think that the Lakers should go as far as making some tweaks, changes, or things that are necessary to the roster in order to get things done next season?
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be tricky because of the cap situation. We don't have much cap room at all, so it's not like you can just go out and sign anyone you want. I think it definitely starts with looking at Schroeder and Drummond. Would I like them back? Sure, but it depends on the price. I believe we offered Schroeder a 4-year, $20 million or $80 million contract earlier in the year. He said no. Rumors were he was looking for 24. I think he knows after some of the performances he put on this offseason that he's not getting that, and he might even be lucky to get $20 million a year now. So if we could get him back at a team-friendly discount, and who knows, maybe after his playoff performance, he knows that he can't get the money. Maybe he signs a 1-year deal for 15 again. I'd be happy to take him back at that. Andre Drummond, same thing. I know he wants all-star money, but when you every other game can't make a bunny shot to save your life, and even though he's not a terrible defender, but he does, of course, struggle a little bit on the perimeter, it's just tough to pay a guy like that the money he's going to want. But if we can get them back at the right price, I'll take them back. It's just there's not going to be a lot of flexibility outside of re-signing the players, the way the cap works, to go out and get, really any big name. Maybe if we can try a sign and trade with Schroeder, but I think re-signing those guys, of course, re-signing Caruso is going to be a big one. One of the most underrated players, in my opinion, in the league. Great guy off the bench. And then, the same things it seems like you say every single year with the Lakers is we need another 3-and-D guy, and we need a primary number 3 scorer, a guy we can rely on, because we just did not have that this year. Of course, the threes weren't going down, even though it seemed like everyone on the roster could make threes, but just not for the last few months. But we just did not have a guy who could consistently put the ball in the bucket, especially on their own without needing LeBron to set them up. So if we can try to find that, I don't know where we'll find it with limited cap space, but that's going to be important because whenever Kuzma signed that deal for 13 a year, it seemed like I was like, okay, that's a team friendly contract. But then the way he played this year, he might have been better overall. His rebounding was solid this year. He was definitely better facilitator, but just scoring wise, you just can't. It just seems like you can't count on him to score, let alone 18, 20 a game. You can't even rely on him to score 10 points in these games. So he's not going to be the guy. Is Schroeder the guy? He doesn't. His whole career, he hasn't been consistent enough, so you can't rely on him. And there's no one else on this roster really that can. You look at it and say, okay, they can get their own shot. So definitely finding that number 3 scorer, and again, 3 and D guy. But I feel like we say that every single offseason. So and this season more than ever, we have limited cap space. The one bright spot is this upcoming year is the final year we have to pay Luol Deng that $5 million.
Very much.
But
yep, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I cannot wait until that comes off the books. And you're right, we're going to have to play some cap gymnastics. KCP, Kyle Kuzma, those are the contracts that we have. There's 8 free agents we either want to resign or want to go ahead and let them go on their own way. So we have to make tough decisions there. Plus, like you said, we need to go ahead and bring additions to the team that are going to help out in those certain spots. But yeah, we cannot thank everyone enough for watching and listening. Once again, it is Boomer Perrault. I want to go ahead and check out what he's doing on Instagram at Healthy Movement Blueprint. And thank you so much, Reed, for the thumbs up. We truly appreciate it. But before we head on out, it's your time to plug. Did you want to go ahead and plug what you're doing on Instagram or whatever we want to talk about on that? Because it is your time to shine, my friend. The floor is yours.
I appreciate that. I know the first time I came on episode 1, I had a different Instagram. It was for a charity I was running to support mental health. Now, the Healthy Movement Blueprint is my business. I'm an online personal trainer. And I've just been pushing that for the last 6 months or so, even though I've been doing it for a little longer. I no longer run that charity. So, if anyone out there has any, whether it's back pain, hip pain, knee pain, or just wants to learn how to move better, both in and out of the gym, that's what I focus on. Not as much the weight loss or muscle gain, but just more the healthy movement aspect of it, hence the name Healthy Movement Blueprint. So whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or TikTok even I'm on, it's a Healthy Movement Blueprint. And you can find me, whether you want to work together or just have any questions, you can reach out, and I can definitely try to help you with that.
Absolutely, indeed. But once again, Boomer, it's been so great having you on. I'm hoping I'm going to reach this out to you. So I'll put this on you, my friend. I'm hoping it will not be another 300 episodes before I catch up with you again. But I do thank you very much for your time that you've taken today and previously. I look forward to chatting. You know what? I'm going to see you at 400. We'll make a date right now for 400. You come back on. I'll hit you up ahead, give you plenty of time. We'll hit you up and we'll get you back on the show for 400 because that will probably be in the first part of this upcoming season. So we'll get a chance to go ahead and catch up on your thoughts on how they did over the summer and your thoughts on whether or not the Lakers can go ahead and come back and get that 18th title ahead of Boston or anyone else.
I'm committed to it now. Episode 400, I'm in.
There you go. Awesome indeed. Once again, it's Boomer Perrault. Please check out the great work that he does on Instagram at Healthy Movement Blueprint. Right there for you, please. Or Facebook or any social media. Type in the words Healthy Movement Blueprint, all one word, and it comes right up. It is Boomer Perrault. You got to go ahead and check out what he does. And please, if you need any type of physical therapy that really he can go ahead and give you that movement, get going, get that blood pumping. I see it right now, even on his Facebook right now. I'm watching him go back and forth. It's really cool right there for you. But Boomer, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with me on episode 300. I really wanted to make sure that you were here for it because, again, it wouldn't have started without you. You reached out to me after I was inquiring to see who would come and want to talk Lakers. And I appreciate the conversation then, and I certainly do appreciate the conversation now.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much again. Appreciate it, Boomer. And thank you so much again for being part of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. And we'll see you on episode 400.